Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining. Welcome all our Torah Anytime viewers and listeners. Again, just if anybody does want to join our live class, you can join the WhatsApp group. Easiest way is either you could email me at rabbi@torahanytime.com, or you can look on the YouTube, which you shouldn't be on, but if you're on YouTube on the most of the classes, this class should be also. You look down on the notes over there, you can see the description. Maybe that's what it says. A link to join. Before we actually get jump on to the topic at hand, there's one announcement that I got a call today from my cousin from Israel, and he is involved with an organization that I'm sure that many of you are familiar with, and that is an organization called Lev La'achem. Lev La'achem is a multifaceted organization. Very famously, what it's known for is that unfortunately you have a lot of Jewish girls, Israeli girls in Israel get sucked in, captured, whatever verb and noun you want to use, into the Arab world, and so many times they try to get out after they realize what a huge error that was. So one of the places that they call is Lev La'achem, but that's not the reason actually why I'm bringing it up. There's another part of the organization, and this is something I was speaking to him today at length. And that is that there is, and there has been, and the Mirz Hashem will continue to be, a huge movement of tshuva, of people being, chayzer b'tshuva, people coming back to the Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu after October 7th, and it's been like blowing up. He said, I've never seen any. He lives in Israel his whole life, full-fledged Israeli. He said, I've never seen anything like this. And he was explaining to me that this, part of what this organization does is that it sends people that are learning in Kollel, and they send them all over Israel to learn with secular people. They sit and they learn, and most of these Avreichim, which don't have money to begin with, this is something they do for free. It's not even why we're raising the money. The money that's being raised is actually to just help cover the cost of transportation, or sometimes they give some sort of food to bring the people in, and you have thousands upon thousands of Avreichim, of Kollel Jungelite, people that are sitting and learning all day. Take time out of the day, they travel to a certain city or kibbutz, and they sit and they learn either with a group of people or one-on-one to try to bring them closer to Torah. So it's a huge thing to do. I am going to actually post a link over here and that you could donate. It's practically in Hebrew. I'd also posted where I can, for example, under the YouTube link and on the WhatsApp chat. But again, this is something that if you want to be part of spreading Torah, this is a huge opportunity that each and every single one of us has to tap into it and really be a part of a crazy revolution that we see a certain aspect in America, but we don't see the real extent of what happens for the people that are living in the war, people that are seeing the missiles flying overhead. They're looking at it like it's as if it's fireworks. The things are blowing up, and they're sitting there and recording it. But it makes a reishim, and makes an effect on the people themselves. And many people are Baruch Hashem, they're coming back closer to Torah mitzvahs. So who doesn't want to be a part of it? Who doesn't want to be a part of these amazing merits? So you should definitely try to give whatever that it is that you can. Okay, so now speaking about Israel, speaking about the war, this is actually a topic at hand. This is something that for a while I've been thinking about this topic and this particular class, but I've always been pushing it off. I'm not a huge fan of doing a class on current events. I'm not a huge fan of doing and I do see the many benefits to it. People do want to listen to these types of topics. People are looking for it, even as much as I get feedback from people. I'm so sick of it. I look at it all over the news. I want to check out. I want to do something completely spiritual, nothing to do with the current events. But push comes to shove, that is, fortunately or unfortunately, it's in the minority, and people do like to hear a perspective on, especially the Torah perspective, on what's going on. Now, I know I'm a little bit late to the game because, the war from Iran, at least Baruch Hashem, has been over for quite a while. Hezbollah has been over for a long time. Houthis, fortunately, they're the special need terrorist groups that they should stay that way. It seems like it's a little bit late, but the truth of the matter is the lessons that we're going to come out of this is something very apropos and very important. Now, we're going to go a little bit into I'm going to take you a little bit on a journey through the current events, and it may seem that it's long, or it may seem that I may be going very much into it, but there's a very, very good reason why I'm doing it. You'll soon see more towards, the end of it. But something that's very important before we begin with the current events, and that is to realize, and something we spoke about many times, and it's so important, that the way that we see things is through our own perspective, meaning that how we are raised, our interactions, our fears, our dreams, our aspirations, all shape on how we see reality. Meaning that you could see reality one way, and it's very true to you, and somebody else could see reality, the same scenario, another way, and it's very true for them. And the question is, what is the real truth then, if it's true to this person? Really, like that's the way that they see it, and it's true to that. So what is the ultimate truth? And let's try to explain this a little bit. So if, let's say, somebody unfortunately was abused as a child, they're very sensitive to anything that's related to what they went through. So if, let's say, they were abused physically for anything wrong that they did, now if their child does something wrong, they'll be very hesitant to reprimand, to discipline this child, because they were so, every time they looked a certain way, or they did something, they got hit, they got this, and they got abused in so many different ways. So they go completely 180 degrees the other way around. Now that's also not good, obviously. Both ways are not good. But in a sense, why did they come with that, understanding of how to raise a kid? Is because the way that they grew up. You have somebody that is, let's say, obsessed with money. All they think about all day is money. So anything that will come up with that it has an opportunity to make money, even if it's questionable, they will somehow justify it, depending, again, how questionable it is and how obsessed they are with money. Meaning that their dreams, their aspirations, how they were raised, all affect on how we see reality and how we interact with it. We see this very common if, let's say, a couple gets divorced. And let's say, for example, that one of the reasons that they got divorced was that they had a lot of friction, a lot of arguments, and it all was based on financial lacking, let's call it. They didn't have enough money, and that causes a lot of shalom bias issue. Now, put those two people, they got divorced, they went on their separate ways, now they're dating to get married a second time. Very common, what they each look for is someone that's financially stable, financially independent, they have the ability to support the family, and they will overlook other things. If, let's say, the person doesn't have good midos, so the person doesn't have good character traits, the person is not so religious, but because what they went through, they look for something completely the opposite, and sometimes they are blinded by other true realities, and it's just based on their perspective and how they were, how they were brought up, or the situation that they were put in. If a couple was put in a very cold marriage, and let's say the wife really wants someone who's warm and loving, and they were put in a very, very cold situation, and they got divorced, unfortunately, after that. What is this woman gonna look for? It's gonna look for a very warm guy. But let's say the guy is not so religious, or let's say the guy is that they're gonna overlook something because they're like, but this person is so warm. But so what happens is that our viewpoints in life is very much molded by our beliefs, our experiences, and our interactions. And it's something that's very, very scary to think about it, because the way that we see things, let's say right now, is going to be very different the way that we see things in 10, 15 years down the line, depending on our interactions, depending on our experiences, and it goes the same for the past. The way that we saw things in the past is very different than we see things right now. So it's very important that when we look at reality, and when I say the word reality, I mean the whole gamut of what we're dealing with, from the physical sense, from the spiritual sense, from the emotional sense, from the intellectual sense, everything that you believe and that you can technically question and be like, wait a minute, how do I see things? How do I relate to things, right? Sometimes we look and we see, let's say, somebody who's very, very religious, and we're like, oh, this guy's a fanatic. And be like, is the person a fanatic, or is the person just doing everything that they're supposed to? And you're so far behind in where you're supposed to be that you see anybody else that's doing the right thing as a fanatic. Meaning that we have a certain viewpoint, we have a certain perspective, and it really changes depending on how we relate to so many things, how our experiences, who we listen to, let's say, like speak. Like, there's so many facets, who our neighbors are, who our friends are, who our parents are, who our children are, who our children's schools are. Like, there's so many different things that mold the way that our brain is wired and the way that our brain, thinks. And the reason why I'm bringing this up right now is that let's take a look at this into politics. So when you look at politics or geopolitical, the situation in Israel, the wars, and when you look at the whole picture of things, so us as religious Jews, we look at it and we say, wait a minute, if you look and say, who do you think is right? Israel, Hamas, Israel, Hezbollah, Israel, Iran. Who do you think is right? It's like there's no doubt in our mind. There's no doubt in our mind that Israel is 100% right. Call it what you want, what they're doing in Gaza. Israel is 100% right, and they're doing nothing wrong. Like that's what people, the way that that we see it. But let's say you look at people in the Islamic world or people in the left liberal media world. How do they see reality? The people that read Al Jazeera, the people that are going and they're focusing on the left-minded mentality, the people that live in Iran, how do they see it? They look at it and they see that Israel is 100% in the wrong. So how is it possible that you have people that look at it, at the war, and say Israel is 100% right, and then you have other people looking at the same situation and say Israel is 100% wrong? And it goes even further. There are people that claim that there's a genocide in Gaza. There are people that claim that there's an apartheid in Israel. And we know all this is false. So how do these claims even come apart? And really, we could divide it, if we could simplify it, we could divide it into two categories. Category one is that when people claim genocide or people claim apartheid or people claim things that are obviously very, very, false. Yeah, and just to explain it, if anybody hasn't heard my whole spiel on this, apartheid, Israel has well over 2 million Arabs living in Israel. They have votes, they sit in the Knesset, they have legal positions, they have the highest, they could achieve the highest level, in society. You know how many Jews live in Gaza? 0. You know how many, Jews, live in, let's say, Lebanon, for example, where Hezbollah is? All these places, that's an apartheid. There's no, forget about it, if a Jew would want to live there, they can't even live there because they will be killed instantly. So, when you look at what's really an apartheid and what's really not an apartheid, it's very obvious. How are people so blind to it? Like the fact of genocide. Like if Israel this is something that it's hard for me to comprehend, but I'll explain to you how it is true. Like if Israel wanted to commit a genocide, they could very easily do that. Like it's not a difficult situation for them. They could wipe out Gaza within hours, and I'm probably exaggerating on within hours. They could just reduce it to a rubble, people and everybody, inside. And they could even be careful not to get where the hostages are, because they know more or less where the hostages are, and they're just working around it. But they could easily kill 1.5, 1.6 million people like that. So if it would be a genocide, why wouldn't they do that? They're so meticulous to the point that, and again, whether I agree with that or not is irrelevant at this point, and the answer is I don't, but they're putting our soldiers, the Israeli soldiers, at risk just to make sure that the Palestinians, they only go and they only kill only the Hamas, only the militants of it. So it's exactly the opposite, but that you see people go. And some of them are very famous. If you look at the top people that are in the podcast world, of the top 10, many of them claim that Israel is committing a genocide. And when you look at the facts are not real. Like the ability of Israel's to civilian to terrorist ratio is unheard of. It's amazing. Like the fact that how little civilians are getting killed in this. But yet you have people that are not only believing in this, but they're spreading this. So how is it possible? How is it that so you have two realities? We said, right? You have the Israel reality, and let's call it the Iran or left liberal media reality. If you could divide it in there. And both believe that they're 100% correct. But then there are situations where it's, according to everybody, it's not true, like the apartheid. It's just not true. So how is it possible that you have people that are believing something that is completely not true? Now, again, I'm not talking about something that's true from their perspective, whether they believe in that. Like, I'm talking about something that is completely untrue, and they believe it as true, meaning untrue as a factual according to everybody. And the reason is, and if I could explain it, you could divide people into two groups. Number one, there are people that they know that they're lying. They know the truth, and they're just lying. They're lying to themselves and lying to other people. Maybe it could be for financial gain. Maybe it could be for popular fame, or maybe whatever the reason is that they're lying. And then you have the second group of people where they just read the news and they repeat it. So let's use, for example, an argument of an apartheid. It just doesn't matter what the argument is, but it's an apartheid. So you have people that know that it's not apartheid, but yet they still claim that it's an apartheid. And the reason is because they're just lying. They're lying to themselves, lying to others, but they know. Then you have other people, the second group of people, they don't know. They hear it from CNN, they hear it from BBC, they hear it from all these places, and they just repeat it. If we take these two categories and we implement that into the entire people of the world, you have two groups of people, if we could do it. You have the people that are, let's say, are not doing what they're supposed to do. So you could split this into two categories. People that are living a lie, they know what they're doing is wrong, but they're doing it and they're living a lie. That's one group. A second group is they don't know any better. The parents did this, like this is how they were raised, and this is what they know, right? If you think about it, who are the people that you trust most in your life? Assuming you have a healthy upbringing, it's your parents. Your parents you trust most. Whatever they tell you as a child, that's what you trust. That's what you go up. That's what you bring. So let's put this into religious perspective, right? So you have two, and this is a little bit of understanding the concept of tinik shenishba. A child that just like was taken to captivity thinking. So you have somebody that's not religious. So it could either be this person was raised religious, they know what's right, they know what's wrong, they learned under a rabbi, they learned under some sort of something, but they just convince themselves that this is what they're doing, and either they lie to themselves or they convince themselves. That's category number one. Category number two is they don't know any better. This is how they were raised. Their parents told them, religion is fake, it's a fraud, it's nothing. All you care about is money. All you care about is the secular world. And that's how they were raised. So how, do they know any better? So now the question, and this is going to seem like a very, very odd question for me to ask, is if we're talking about the second group of people, and that is that this is what they read, this is what they repeat, this is how they were raised, how can we blame people from the Iran, or even terrorists? Terrorists are born and raised with the mentality that the Jews are the devil and they have to kill them, and that's what's going to get them. So how can you blame someone like that? How can you blame the left liberal media? After all, this is all that they hear. They're not religious. They're secular people. They turn on the TV. This is what they listen. They listen that Israel's the devil. Israel's this. Israel's bad. Trump is bad. Only the left, liberal is the most righteous. How can you blame them for thinking something wrong? How can you blame them for coming to wrong conclusions? And this is a very, very powerful question. It's a weird question for me to ask, but I want to go through with this, to try to understand this. And that is, I'd like to go step by step on the chain of events between what culminated in the Israel-Iran war, but really going through a lot more, details, of it. So we know that Israel, if anybody knows a little bit about the geography of Israel, it's situated by enemies all around. In the recent years, let's say the past, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years, Iran took a really big stance in this, but it didn't just, Iran is very far away from Israel. So it created, or it funded, we'll soon see, different, what is called proxies, where groups of people that were near Israel would be kind of surrounding Israel. And now it's very interesting to think about it, because Iran is huge. Why do they care about a small piece of land in Israel? Like, what difference does it make? Just to give you an example, Iran is 74 times the size of Israel, meaning that you could fit 74, that's 70 plus 4 Israels in Iran. Iran is huge. What do they care about the land in Israel. Like, well, okay, so let the Jews have a small strip of land that is tiny compared to what Iran has. But Iran took this, like, no. And they started funding and they started producing. And again, came with, the Islamic jihadist, mentality. So Israel, you have it situated, very small country, smaller than New Jersey. You have Hamas by Gaza. You have Hezbollah in Lebanon. You have Syria and Iraq, that is also very close to Israel. You have the Houthis in Yemen a little bit further, and then you have the mother of all these children, and that is Iran. Iran funds not only monetarily, and a tremendous amount monetarily, they also train them, right? This is all estimated. None of this has been proved, but they estimate that Iran sends Hamas $100 to $350 million annually. Hezbollah gets between $700 million to $1 billion annually. That's every single year. Syria, Iraq, you're talking about $200 to $500 million a year. The Houthis, another $100 to $300 million a year. Iran right now is not a rich country. There's a lot of restrictions on it. They spend 40 to 50% of Iran's military spending goes to different, proxies. They don't only fund them, they also train them. They also give them the rocket manufacturing. They give them the operations and the arsenals, and they give them all these different, things. And just to give you an understanding on how they all think, meaning how not only does Hamas think, but how the group, as a group they think, is you look at Hamas's founding charter in 1988, when Hamas was founded, what it called for was a destruction of Israel, and they wanted to establish an Islamic state in the entire Israel. And the only way that they think that this will work is armed jihad. Armed jihad is the only way, meaning go and murder and kill and, do the worst of the worst. And that is the way that you'll be able to go and capture Israel and take it from the Jews and bring it back to I shouldn't say back because it was always a Jewish state, but the Islam did rule over it, but the Jews always existed in there. But bring it to a full-fledged Islamic state is only if it's ruled and governed by Islam. And the only way to do it is through armed jihad, which is just murder and all the worst. So this ideology, brought upon the October 7th, call it a massacre, call it attack, where 1,200 Israelis were killed and many, over 250 were taken hostages. When did this happen? This happened almost exactly 50 years almost to the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. The Yom Kippur War happened in 1973. This, October, which also happened in October 7th, happened in Simchas Torah, happened in 2023, exactly 50 years to that anniversary, for it. They went in, they did some serious damage. Israel came and decided that they're going to launch a war, and they're going to call it Operation Iron Swords, and they launch a war against Hamas in Gaza. At the next day, Hezbollah declares war as well, right? Because that's why did Iran create this network of proxies? Is that Iran they had the same mentality: got to destroy Israel, got to get the Jews out, got to put an Islamic state over there. So for Iran, it's much easier if we fund everybody around Israel and we're able to attack Israel from there. It will be the win-win for us, right? Because Israel would not be able, and it's crazy if you think about it, Israel would not be able to attack Iran because it has all the proxies all around it. And if they attack Iran, all the proxies will come at the same point in time. And the proxies had some significant power. You're talking about Hezbollah had over 150,000 rockets. You know that number, that number is like crazy. When Iran launched 50, 60, 70, rockets into Israel, there was like 10 or 15 that got through. Like, imagine shooting at one point in time, tens of thousands of rockets. The idea is mind-boggling. So Hezbollah joins the war. Hamas is on the war on one side. Hezbollah joins the war on another side. And Israel, and I would, again, credit is due where credit is due, but you have to take a step back and realize how God orchestrated this entire situation. Israel, within a period of 2 weeks, destroyed 90% of Hezbollah's long-range rockets. They attacked the missile diva. They did, and they were attacking Hezbollah one after another. And then they did assassinations. And then they did, or it was actually beforehand, they did the beeper. Like this is going to go down in history, like the rigged beepers, where they were able to take out a large majority of the mid-level, Hezbollah commanders. So what happened was Hezbollah is very, very different. You can see why I'm going into so many details. Hezbollah is very, very differently, orchestrated or organized than Hamas. Hamas is a little bit, a little bit all over the place. Hezbollah is very disciplined. They had a lot of people, working under them. They were very, organizational. They when they lost this mid-level of commanders, it disrupted the entire operations. It was like, besides a moral collapse, it was a logistical chaos for them. They couldn't coordinate attacks against Israel. And, and not only that, like everything was like thrown off. They were trying to regroup. They spent billions of dollars on tunnels, and Israel, the IDF was able to map it out and destroy it, very quickly. Hezbollah's power wasn't part of Lebanon's government and the economy, and the currency collapsed. And they went and they bombed this thing and they bombed this, oil, like one thing after another, and the entire organization, like after the assassination especially, was just trying to to collapse. Now during this time, Hezbollah, where did it get a lot of its weapons? From Iran. How did it get it through Iran? Through Syria. So Israel had to attack Syria, and especially Damascus, the airport, and they had to attack the oil refineries. And Syria was also not, pro-Israel. It was also, pro, it helped Iran. Hezbollah was very much influence over there. Syria now was a civil war was brewing. All of a sudden, with all this, they couldn't pay their soldiers. So you had a lot of soldiers that, because they didn't get any pay, they went and they defected, and they went and they, it led to a civil war, and Syria collapsed. Now, listen to, you have to follow how this thing is almost like it was scripted. Russia, which is a very powerful country, backed Syria. But because it was with war with Ukraine, it couldn't really do or help Syria, in any sense. Now, Iran, seeing that all its proxies are falling apart, they figured, okay, we have to launch something. We have to go. Again, they were embarrassed by all these attacks on their own soil. They figured they have to launch something. So they launched something, and then Israel had to retaliate, and they were able to get the nuclear, the military, the leadership. They were able to knock everything down. Now, the alliance that Iran had was Russia and China. Those were the two big ones. Russia couldn't do anything about it because they were too preoccupied with Ukraine. China was very, very much prioritized the money, and that's the most important thing for them. So they couldn't really, they don't want to get involved in this. And now you take a step back and you look at how things were orchestrated, and you really should, this is super important to take a step back. October 7th forced Israel to go into war. Hezbollah's entry into the war forced Israel to fight Hezbollah and dismantle Iran's strongest proxy. Syria falls down because Israel had to attack Syria in order to attack Hezbollah. Now, Iran had to attack Israel because they attacked Hezbollah, because they attacked Hamas, and because they attacked people like that. And one thing after another, and you think about the hashgacha pratis, you think about the divine intervention. If you would have asked somebody pre-October 7th, will Israel ever fight Iran? And you think about it, Israel fighting Iran, of course, they always fought behind the scenes. They always bombed here, they did this, they did cyber, but have a direct military strike. Just for you to understand, besides with the fact that we said that Iran is 74 times the size of Israel, Iran has 90 million people. Israel is coming close to 10 million people. Iran's, let's just give an example, the oil production is 3.5 million barrels per day, compared to Israel's 4,000 barrels, per day. You're talking about the ground troops. Iran has over 610,000 ground troops, compared to the 170-something thousand that Israel has. I'm not talking about the reservists, 170,000. And by the way, Iran over 600,000 doesn't include Hezbollah, doesn't include Hamas, doesn't include the Houthis, doesn't include anybody, just Iran. And you think about it, Israel would have never been able to attack Iran directly, because this is why Iran created this axis around Israel that if you attack it, Hamas is going to attack you, Hezbollah is going to attack you, the Houthis are going to attack you, the Iraqis, the militias over there, they're going to attack you. You have everything set up to prevent it. Now, Iran was building a nuclear capabilities, and it was very obvious. It wasn't that they were, lying to, we're just trying to have nuclear. They say it straight out. America is a big Satan, Israel is a small Satan, we want to kill Israel, we want to kill America. They said it's a one-bomb country, Israel. Okay, maybe that recently they put out a picture of Israel with 2 nuclear bombs, on it. They couldn't care less about all the Palestinians that live in there. They would wipe out, if they could, they would wipe out Israel in a second. So, you think about it, be like, how are you, all this was building up, the Iran nuclear, and they were going to use it, because they said that they were going to use it. You have all these things that were coming up, and Israel would have been in a situation like, how are we supposed to deal with it? And when you look at how HaKadosh Baruch Hu put the situation, and yes, it was bad. It's not, I can't say, it's difficult to say, you look back, everything was for the best, because, October 7th, but it's true, Kol man da'avid rachman al tav of it, everything that Baruch Hu does is for the best. You look at October 7th, you look at what Hezbollah, you look at all these angles, and you look at how, again, we're still living in that situation, and but one thing we know for sure is God has our backs. God takes care of every single one of us, and God orchestrates, like a puppet master, exactly what it's supposed to be. And the reason why, one of the reasons why, there's 2 reasons why I went through such a detail in going to, and what it appears to wasting 10 minutes going through what everybody almost knows about what happened, is that when you look at how the war came about, and how the accomplishments, you take a bird's eye view from it, you're like, this is like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even Bibi Netanyahu knew that, and saw that it's all from God. You see in his speeches how many times he mentions God, how many times, people that were secular, people that were not religious, anti-God, to a certain extent, they see that God's hand is in it. When you're looking at it, you're like, God's hand's in here. And it's amazing to see something like that. But then we have to take that information and plug it into our own lives. How many times do we have something that maybe is not going the way that we want to? Maybe the parnasa is not going the way we want to. Maybe the shalom bayis is not going the way that we want to. Maybe the kids is not going, or lack thereof, going the way that that we want. Whatever the reason is, we have to take a step back for a second and realize, wait a minute, look at how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. Look at how he has the ability to go, and it's mind-boggling when the more that you know about the situation and how Israel and how all these things, how they plug in together, it makes absolutely no sense. You couldn't plan it as best as you possibly could have, even if you tried. I didn't even begin to speak about the war in Iran, how you had Israeli spies inside over there. There was a drone manufacturing facility in Iran. You kidding me? You stop and you think, Baruch Hashem, they didn't get caught. They didn't, all these things are so miraculous. And you can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pulling the strings. And we have to take a step back and look at the situation and say, wait a minute, this is also for our own lives. Maybe something is not going the way that we planned in our own lives. Maybe the shidduchim is not where we want it to be. Whatever the situation is, we have to take a step back and be like, wait a minute, God is taking care of me. God knows what he's doing. If I'm in this situation where I need to be right now, then this is where I need to be. All I need to be is be patient, do what I need to do, and know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of you. God is going to take care of everything, just like he has always done and he always will do. Some people suffer from anxiety and they're nervous and certain things that, again, we're all part of this equation in one aspect or another. And it's such a good reminder. Forget about a good reminder. It's such a good lesson that we look at this and we look at how HaKadosh Baruch Hu oversees every single detail, and how God loves us so much and cares about us so much. And it says, what you think is so bad right now, just wait. Just wait, I'm going to show you how amazing it's going to be. When we have an attack looming over us from all angles, and how it all of a sudden becomes like what was once a tiger becomes a paper tiger. What was once a major issue becomes almost as if it was not, it was nothing. Again, what I'm saying is easier said than to bring it in. But this is something that we could all learn, and not only learn, we could gain a little bit of Yishuv Adas, a little bit of like a relaxation. Whatever it is that we're dealing with, we take our anxiety, we take our depression, we take our situations, and we bring it to, we have to realize God is in control. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control. God took care of you until now, and God will take care of you until the end of days. You're in good control. You're in good hands. You have to do one thing. You have to follow the Torah. You have to follow what you need to do. And after that, it's out of your control. It's such an amazing lesson. It's such a beautiful lesson. And it's something that's so comforting to like each and every single one of us. It's kind of like releasing all this bound up tension. Whatever somebody's going through a health issue, someone's going through a family issue, someone's going through a financial issue, someone's going through an emotional issue, whatever it is. If you realize and you look at how God manipulates, I don't know if that's the right word, the world, like, God's got you. Don't worry about it. Like, God will take care of you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of you. You don't know the power of the tefillah. You don't know the power of what you have. Like, relax. Enjoy. Take a step back. Take a breather. Realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control of everything. That is one lesson that I want to take out of this. The truth is, I didn't begin to scratch the surface of my next lesson, and it's actually getting very late, but I really want to cover this. The second lesson is really my main lesson that I really wanted to bring out. And when you look at the broader picture of this war, and you were to ask anybody with common sense, who is a clear winner? Again, it's not over yet. We know there's more, whatever. Who is a clear winner over here, right? 80% of Iran's proxies are gone. Syria is out of the picture. Hezbollah is in ruins. Hamas is hiding like cockroaches. Iran lost its nuclear capabilities, was embarrassed in bushas from today until tomorrow. The Saudi, normalizations is back on track. According to everyone who is normal, Israel is a clear winner. Right? Unless you're lying with yourself in that category, I can't, But yet, what's crazy is Iran, Hamas, they all claim victory. And this thing was like, I don't know, like there's certain things, like that just like trigger you. This thing like triggered me. I'm like, huh? How do I understand this? How do I begin to understand? I want to give you some quotes, right? So the Iranian claim, the IRGC spokesman, I'm going to mess up his name. Personally, I couldn't care less. Ramizan Sharif. He said the Zionist regime failed in all its attacks. Iran stands stronger than ever. Who is he speaking to? Does anybody not know what's going on? President Ibrahim Raisi, he said the resistant front has broken the will of America and Israel. This was all said in the past year. Like, what are they, like, Iran always declares victory. Israel bombs Syria, let's say. You know what, Iran, our air defenses repelled the Zionists. It's like somebody that gets punched in the face and be like, yeah, I hurt his hand. His knuckles hurt against my skull. Like, who are you talking about? Like, there's sanctions, right? There's sanctions on Iran. Or you know what Iran says? We're now self-sufficient thanks to the sanctions. Their economy is crippled. So we know every government lies to its citizens, lies to its people. They try to make it, but the problem, and this is like the difference, most governments, they try to make it look true. They coded in some truth. The Islamic governments, for some reason, they lie to its people, they lie to the nations, they lie to themselves, and it's so obvious. And this is something that really, like, first of all, I didn't see anybody speak about it. I mean, maybe somebody did, but I'm like, what's going on? Like, is nobody bothered by this? Like, how can somebody that be so humiliated, defeated to the core, like, their leader had to hide in a bunker for weeks, like a cockroach hiding from the light for so long, and they claim victory? Like, I it's hard to understand. It's hard for me to begin to like what's going on over here. And you look at, Islam as a religion. Now, Islam was created by an experience of one person, right? Muhammad, we know he was born around the year 570 Common Era, 570 CE. God told Muhammad he is the chosen person, and he was the seal of the prophets, meaning he was the last of all the prophets, and he received a bunch of messages. This messages Muhammad went and took and put it into chapters. In Arabic, this is called surahs, and that's why the Quran is split up in surahs. And this is how the religion of Islam was formed. Now, Muhammad had scribes. He had people that were writing for him. And there was one particular scribe by the name of Abdullah ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Sar. I know I messed that up, but who cares? So this Abdullah was a scribe, and he wrote about it. And he said, Muhammad told him to write something. He says, well, what about if I switch it that way? He said, yeah. Muhammad said, yeah, no problem. So do it that way. And he kept on switching whatever Muhammad was telling him, and he was writing it in the Quran. And he started thinking about, wait a minute, if this is God's word, how could God's word be changed? And he eventually left Islam. He left Islam for that. Eventually, Muhammad went and had him killed. But he was like, "This something doesn't make any sense over here. Like, how do you switch if it's real? Then it's true. It's true. Like, what is it that I could switch whatever it is that I want? I didn't hear God. Like how do you begin to understand that? So when you look at the Quran, they confirm the Torah. To a certain extent, obviously, they one of the most written names is Musa. Musa is known as Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. He's written. He's brought down in the Quran, many times, and the Quran confirms. Islam confirms that the Prophet Moshe Rabbeinu revealed the Torah to the Jewish people. But then they start switching things, right? Like Avram, which they call Abraham, he had a son, Ishmael. And now when the Torah says that in Genesis chapter 21, verse 12, it says, Ki Yitzchak yikar lecha zera. Where your nation is going to be Yitzchak. The Quran or Islam switches it to Ishmael. No. It doesn't mean about that. It meant about Ishmael. Ishmael was the one that was going on a sacrifice. And they start switching things around. And this is the core and the essence of how Islam was brought about. Now again, I'm not bashing the religion of Islam. The religion of Islam happens to be they believe in one God, and according to the Noahide laws, they follow. I'm not talking about the radicals, but according to the I don't know if you call them normal Islamic people. What they're doing is very good. They're following the Torah. They're following the Torah to a certain extent, obviously, but they're following the Shabbat to a certain extent. They're not worshiping idols. They're following one God, and they're doing things that are actually good. But when you look at Yishmael as a whole, you look at like what their name represents, and this is something we spoke about quite a few times. When Avram Avinu went and he welcomed the guests, all right, after his bris milah, we know he had a bris milah that was a very he welcomed those three Yishmaelim that came in, and these Yishmaelim, he made them go and wash their feet. Why did he go and wash their feet? Anybody wants to look it up in the Bereshit chapter 18 verse 4. He made them wash their feet. Why? Because these Arabs, these Ishmaelim, they were known to bow down to the dust of their feet. What does it mean to bow down to the dust of their feet? Meaning, Rabbi Moshe Shapiro explains that wherever they walk, the dust that they walk, they believe that that's God's will. They went and they decided whatever is in their mind, and they said it out loud. They said, this is what God wants. Oh, God wants us to kill people. God wants us to murder and rape and do and all these terrible things, but they do it in the name of God. Allahu Akbar. They do it in the name of God, and this is what Yishmael actually means. There's a difference between Yisrael and Yishmael. Yisrael, what it means, the Jewish people, Yashar Kel. You have to follow the straight path of what God wants. Yashar, you have to go straight in the straight path. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you understand. You have to follow God. It's what God says. That's what you have to follow. Yishmael is Yishma Kel. God will listen to me. I will decide what I want to do, and God is going to listen to what I say, and that is the path of what God wants. So they go and they convince themselves that murdering people is what God wants. They convince themselves that doing the most despicable acts unknown to humankind, that is what God wants. And this is how they see the truth. This is how they were raised. This is how they see the truth. And it's very, very difficult. If you take a step back for a second, you have many people, how do they live their life? They see the truth through their own perspective. These, the radical Islamists, this is how they see the truth. Whether you blame them or not, whether it's wrong or not, in their mind, this is the best thing. This is the most righteous thing. This is what they need to do. This is what God wants them to do. This is how they were. And many people, I want to pivot for a second. Many people, the way that they live their lives, the way they live is this is what God wants. You have like Jews that were religious, and then they went to and I know some personally. They went to the left liberal worldview, and they consider themselves great people. They consider themselves righteous people. They go and they say, no, you have to appreciate everybody. You have to accept everybody. In their mind, this is the truth. In their mind, if you were to ask them, put them into a lie detector, do you think you're a bad person? Yeah, you don't follow God, you go against the Torah, you go against everything, but they would honestly say, no, I'm a very good person. I accept everybody. I'm very welcoming of everybody. They don't listen to God, they listen to... That's in their mind. And again, these are two radical extremes that I'm talking about. But what if we implement that in our own mindset? What if we implement that in our own situations? How many of us are living our life and we think, we're a great person. Okay, maybe we don't learn every single day, but we try to. Maybe we're not super tznius, but we try to. Maybe we don't. There's so many different things that, and we put ourselves in that category that we're okay. Yeah, we're good. The Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer was written by Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus. You're talking about he lived between the year 45 Common Era to 117 Common Era. Way in the beginning of the by the time in that time area of the second base of Mikdash. In Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, he says there are 15 things that Yishmael, which is now Islam, will do in the land of Israel in the end of days. We're not going to go through the whole 15. We went through this when we spoke about the Mashiach series. But one of them was that lies will abound. Lies will be very, very common. The Islamic people, the Ishmaelim, they're going to be very deceptive. They're going to they're going to deceive everybody. To the point is, another one of them is the paper and the quill that they write things upon is not going to be worth anything, because anything that they sign, it's useless. It doesn't mean anything. Meaning that Yishmael is going to be known to be very deceptive. And this is something we spoke about when we spoke about the Mashiach, in the Mashiach series, that anything that Yishmael does is a response to a specific spiritual void that is created by us. Meaning that if there's lies are going to increase, that means that that there's something that we're not truthful amongst ourselves. If we're not truthful amongst ourselves, the Bnei Ishmael, the people of the Islamic, call it whatever they believe, they're also going to lie to us. We live in a society that's very, very common in with lies. There are studies upon studies about the amount of lies that goes on in today's society. In 2022, there was a study on the lies of a resume. They did a study on 2.6 million. They did background checks. That's how they did the study. 2.6 million background checks, and they found that 44% of resumes had certain misrepresentation, either inflated job titles, fake degrees, hidden employment gaps. There's different things that they that they did it. The University of Massachusetts in 2004 did an experiment, and they found that over 30% of participants lied about their qualifications, meaning that's a huge number. And you have 67% of people believe that CEOs and governments lie routinely, everyone, no, as they lie routinely. 40%, these are the political fact, 2023, 40% of political claims are mostly false. You know what that means, mostly false? In fact, MIT did an experiment in 2018, and they found that false news, like fake news, is 70% more likely to be spread around than real news. So if you're in the news business and you want to spread it, if you don't have any morals, why wouldn't you lie about something? It spreads so much more. It'll bring you more revenue. It'll bring you more people to your side. So of course, why wouldn't anybody who has no morals, go to this? University of Virginia made an experiment that an average person has 1 to 2 lies per day. There was this is a little bit of an older experiment in 1996. There was an experiment by Bella DePaolo. And the experiment is called The Truth About Lying. And they did this experiment with 77 college students and over 70 people of a community. And the procedure was they had to keep a diary and record every lie and the context of that lie. And they came to a conclusion that on average, there's 1 to 2 lies per day per person. And mind you, if we take a little bit of caveat, these are people who knew that they were documenting. People that knew a document would obviously lie less, but yet you still had an average of 1 to 2 lies per day. Common lies can be like, either something with fake emotions, I'm fine, I'm okay, or a fake praise, I like that, that's amazing what you're doing, or a fake excuse like I'm busy, I can't do it, things along those lines. It's very interesting. That whole study is very interesting. Women versus men, the different, it's fascinating. But the bottom line is, it's getting late and we don't have to really dwell upon it. Lies are very common in our society. Forget about the political side of things. The political candidates there's no such thing as beliefs anymore. They take polls and they see which way the wind is blowing, and that's what the position shift according to. You look at Kamala Harris, people that remember her. She spoke in different accents wherever she went. Like it was something like it was so fake, and I believe one of the reasons that Donald Trump won the presidency was that to a certain extent he was real. Like this is what he believed and this is what he said. Trump says something and he follows through with it to a certain extent. Like that's who he is, a person. He's not he's not a politician, and in its sense, and maybe that's what gives him the credit. But people were so sick of it, and I believe this is one of the reasons people are so sick of it. It's like, stop lying, stop telling me what I want to hear. And by the way, this is also true for, in the rabbinical sense of things. If someone comes to speak to you, they don't want to hear the cushy, wishy, everything is okay. No, if there's something wrong, tell me about it. People appreciate it. Not everybody, again, gotten the nice earful from it, but very, very, it's very interesting. Most people, and sometimes if I speak to someone one-on-one and I'm about to give them like some harsh truth, I'm like, by the way, I'm going to say something to you might not want to hear it, and 9 out of 10 times, or maybe even 10 out of 10 times, to be like, no, like, tell me what I need to hear. Like, I'm coming to you because I need help. I'm not coming to you, I'm not the therapist. I'm coming to you because I need some direction. So tell me what I need to hear. People like the truth. People like it. People are not interested in the lies anymore, even though they say it themselves and they live it themselves. But they realize there's some sort of there's a discrepancy inside that's not real, and we see this in social media. The pictures, the filters, all these things, and it's creeping into the Jewish society. They have the shidduch resumes where they put the pictures, and then I get phone calls. This person doesn't look anything like their picture. They send me a picture like this, and they look like a hippopotamus. They look at I don't understand what's going on. They said different, and people know how to take the pictures. You have to have the right filter. You have to have the right angle. You have to go like this. And it's like, it's again, it's hard to say that this is pure sheker, because at the same, you have to make yourself look good, you have to make yourself appealing, and I'm not going to get into that, but like we're dealing, and I'll tell you in another aspect, you have people, let's say that at social media, even though I'm on social media, whatever, like not me personally, but whatever, like the social media, my name exists, around there, and I thank for the person for taking care of everything. She's on it, on the class over here. So thank you, Shira, for that. But you look at the social media and you have people that they'll take a picture of themselves as if they are on vacation, and they'll post it, having the greatest time in blah 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 place, whatever, whatever. It's irrelevant. Not everybody can afford vacation. If you could afford vacation, great, go on vacation, enjoy yourself. What do you have to post it? But then you have someone that can't go on vacation and they post it as if they went on vacation. Like, what are you gaining from that? Like, it's very hard for me to wrap my mind around it. What you're gonna get, like, likes on social? Are you so empty inside that's all? That's what you need. You need like this fake envy. Like, it's negative from all angles. And the truth of the matter is, somebody that does that, as nice, whatever it is, like I would like to be, someone who does that should really go to therapy. There's something wrong with you, and it's something that you have to go to therapy. And if you're one of these people that are listening to this right now, and please reach out to a therapist and schedule an appointment, because I guarantee you there's something that's wrong. You shouldn't feel the need to show this. You shouldn't. You should. And if you do, you're lacking something. Maybe it's self-esteem. Maybe it's self-worth. Maybe it's something worse than that. Whatever it is, like it's not a normal thing. And this is the society that we live in. We live in where this one posts about this. And by the way, I don't know, it's good that I say this right now. If someone posts about their marriage online, that they have the best spouse ever, hidden, there's something going on over there that's not so well. Like somebody that's having a great time, is not posting on it. The successful people, the really successful people do not need to share their success with everybody else. They don't. This is for myself. Has nothing to do with you. Like, why hurt somebody else? Like, what do you gain? What do you gain from that? You don't gain. You guys, wow, that's amazing. You're so lucky. And you're like, oh, now I can sleep better. So this person who I met 3 times in my life, but they're a social media friend, they said I'm so lucky. So now I feel good about myself. Like, there's something wrong. If that's what you need to feel good about, there's something wrong about it. But again, we're living in a society that's full of lies. It's all based on lies. It's all based on fake. It's all based on non-reality things. And this is, unfortunately, it's creeping into the Jewish society. I had a list of sources I wanted to give you, and we're a little bit late for that, but I want to share something from the Sma. Sma brings down, Rabbi Sucker Franz brings this down, that when Hashem finally brings the Jewish people back to Eretz Yisrael, the nations of the world will say, Hashem, and it was a quote, Hashem is right. God is right for choosing the Jews as his people because they are a truthful people. The truth, and so according to the Sma, that the Geula, the redemption, the final redemption will be delayed until the nations of the world will attest to the honesty and the integrity of the Jewish people. And you look at it, it'd be like, how honest and integrity, are we? Again, a majority, 100%. Majority of Jewish people, religious people, I feel with full, my full belief that they're honest, they're wholesome, they're amazing. Unfortunately, there's a small minority that makes a big dent in the news. Unfortunately, but this is something the Pele Yoetz said hundreds of years ago. The Pele Yoetz says that the Gentiles, what the non-Jew says, that it's known that the Jews commit corruption. They speak deviously. Again, whether it's true or it's not, you could say it's anti-Semitism. You could say whatever it is. But the bottom line is, and this is something Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch said, nowadays some Jews have become the reverse Marranos. Marranos, back in Spain, they were Jewish people that looked outside as Gentiles, but inside they were acted as Jews because they couldn't act outside as Gentiles because of what was going on in Spain and during that time. So you had Jews that were Jewish on the inside, but Gentile on the outside. Now, unfortunately, and this is something that Shimshon Raphael said, you have Jews that are Jews on the outside, but Gentile on the inside. And this is a scary thing. And now, again, not speaking bad about the Jewish people. The Jewish people are amazing people. And really, I believe that with a full heart, like the Mika Amcha Yisrael to the highest level. But you have a small minority of people that they make a big splash, things that they, like maybe the not truthful way that, they need to act. Rabbi Fran brings down a story where there was a man that came to see a certain Rosh Yeshiva, and he had a question. He says, look, I'm a religious man, a learned man, Glakosha, everything is mahadrin min mahadrin. And you know me, and you know my neighbor. My neighbor is a simple person, doesn't know as much as I do, doesn't go to the levels that I go. How come he has such righteous children, and my children are not as righteous? And the Rosh Yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva responded and said, you're a refugee, you're a survivor. So you came here with nothing and you scraped together to just get yourself ahead. So how do you look at reality? How do you look at it? You bend the rules if you need to, in order to get whatever you need to do, you need to survive. You need to get ahead. So you bend the rules here, you bend the rules there. Your children picked up on that. Your children saw that nothing really means anything. Your neighbor is a simple person. Simple-minded person. What he says is what he does. He doesn't know any trickery or anything like that. And that's what the children saw. He says, you want to know why your children turned out one way and his children turned out better? He was honest in everything that he did. And it's very interesting the way the Rosh Hashiva said that. He didn't blame he said, you're a refugee, you're a survivor, this is what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, it makes an effect on your children. It takes an effect on how your children, and how they interact and how they see things. Yosef HaTzadik, when you look at Yosef and his brothers, so Yosef was sold into slavery, was away from his family for 22 years. When he finally, when the Shvatim came, and the brothers came, and they were standing in front of the viceroy of Egypt, and they were nervous for their life, and finally Yosef revealed himself, says, Ani Yosef, ha'ot avichai, I am Yosef, is my father still alive? All of a sudden, they were in such shock, the brothers. And the Medrash goes down in this story, and says, and brings down, Oy lanu miyayim hadin, woe is to us on the day of judgment, Oy lanu miyayim hatachacha, woe is to us on the day of rebuke of Tuchacha. This is what the Medrash brings down. This is like a crazy wake-up call. Many Mefarshim, many commentators goes and asks on this whole story, what woe is to us the day of judgment? Let's break this story down. The brothers came down to Egypt. They wanted to get some food. They're going back and forth. They got some food there, and then they got stuck with Yosef. It was Yosef and the brothers. They didn't know that Yosef was their brother, and it was getting heated. Right? It was getting heated between the two to the point that they might fight, and they would have died. And the brother Benjamin was involved. It was a sticky situation over there. And they were in the midst of about to begin a war, and all of a sudden Yosef HaTzadik goes and says, "Hey, it's me, Yosef. Is my father still alive?" And that is the biggest rebuke that the brothers can get. Why is that? The commentators ask, why is that such a big rebuke? They were fighting back and forth. All of a sudden, Yosef says, hey, by the way, guys, peekaboo, it's me, Yosef, your brother, is my father still alive? That should have been the end of the story. Why and how the Medrash is coming to say this is the day of judgment? And the answer is something very fascinating. That the brothers, they thought what they did was right? For 22 years, their brother Yosef was gone, and they felt they did the right thing by selling him as a slave. Now, how did they come to this conclusion? Because they came to the conclusion of they sat in judgment and said, wait a minute, Yosef is not acting the way that he's supposed to act, and they classified him, they categorized him as a rodef, someone that's going and chasing after to go and destroy the brothers. So they came to the conclusion that he has to die. That is if someone's coming to kill you, you have to kill him first. That's the halacha. They came to that conclusion. And they were fine with that. And then, out of the mercy of their hearts, the pity of their hearts, they said, you know what, let's not kill our brother. Let's sell him as a slave. And they felt good about the decision. Why did they feel good about the decision? Because they looked at the facts and said, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z, this came out, this is the conclusion. This is where he has to be, meaning that he's going to kill us, we have to get rid of him. And they got rid of him. For 22 years, every time it came up, the missing brother, the father is no, we did what we're supposed to do. We were right in our decision. And all of a sudden, they're standing in front of the viceroy of Egypt, the most powerful man in the world, the second to most powerful man in the world. And all of a sudden, Yosef reveals that I'm Yosef. All of a sudden, it hit them like a ton of bricks hit them. They were like, wait a minute, if Yosef really wanted to kill us all along, if he was really a rodef, he could have killed us a long time ago. But it was obvious that he never wanted to kill us, meaning that everything that they believed until this point was wrong. They sold Yosef because he thought that they were a rodef, he was trying to kill them. But he wasn't trying to kill them because he could have killed them right now. So this was such a wake-up call. All of a sudden, what they thought was true, what they thought was reality, what they thought was correct, was all of a sudden a wake-up call and be like, wait a minute, I was wrong for 22 years? And that's why the Medrash says, woe is to us on the day of judgment, because you know what's going to happen after 120? After 120, we're going to go and live our life. We're righteous. We're so good people. We're such a good person because we love everybody. And we have all our things that we did so right. And all of a sudden, after 120, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to open up the lights. And we're going to see the truth. And we're going to be like, whoa, this was not what I was expecting. And that is why the way that they said it, it says aval ashemim anachnu. It says we are indeed guilty. Usually aval in Hebrew means but over here it means indeed. Really, in truth, we are guilty. Aval, indeed, now ashemim anachnu, we are really guilty. And this is what the Rambam writes in Vidui, where he says aval anachnu chatanu. sinned, but it doesn't say but we. It doesn't mean but we sin. It means indeed we sin, meaning that if we look at reality, if we look at the world through our true perspective, to the real lenses of the Torah, we realize that we really indeed sinned. We really indeed, messed it up. And this is what the Gemara in the Torah, page 8b, tells us, that when what does it mean that it says that in the next world, in Olam Haba, there's not going to be Gehenna? Because what it means is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to unveil the sun, the righteous will be healed, the sinful people, the wicked people are going to be punished. Rabbi Zev Leff explains that this is referring to the light of the truth that comes after, Olam Haba. When the time of Mashiach comes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reveal the light of truth. And we're going to see things for what it really is, the reality of what it is, what's real and what's fake, what's true and what's false. And we're going to realize how much of a lie that we live. The Ben Ish Chai explains as follows something. He says, imagine you have two garments. They both look high quality. They both look phenomenal. They both look amazing. How do you tell one quality is bad and one quality is good? After they've been laundered, after they've been washed, all of a sudden the good quality remains its color, remains its texture, remains its everything. The weak quality all of a sudden fades. It feels different. It's clearly recognizable after it's washed. Says the Ben Ish Chai, when you look at the philosophies of the world, you look at the more that you delve into it, the more that you probe into it, the more that you realize it's fake. It constantly changes. If you think about philosophy, right? The greatest philosophers in ancient history, no one studies their work anymore. Aristotle, Plato, Friedrich Nietzsche, Rene Descartes, all these, people don't even know most of these names. People don't even study it. Maybe if you're a philosophy major and, you have to study it so that you have to whatever to get taken. But no, their philosophy is irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the book. Because why? Because it constantly changes. So wait a minute. If it constantly changes, that means it wasn't true to begin with. But the Torah never changes. When you go and you study Torah, you learn the Torah, you build on the Torah, that means you're building on a foundation of truth, and it doesn't change. You have people still studying the Rambam, and they're still studying the Ramban, and they're still studying the Ben Ish Chai. When you're based on truth, it doesn't stay. You look at the ancient philosophies, no one studies them anymore. No one cares about it. No one knows. If I were to tell you, name me one philosophical thought about Aristotle, how many people can do it? Plato. I can name a bunch of other philosophers. You won't even know. Forget about naming something from them. You don't even know who they are and when they lived and who they, again, unless you're a philosophy major, which a minority is that, and the irrelevance of it, of that. And you look at it, you have people that they study philosophy and they study what's right and what's wrong, and the ethics and all these different things and understanding the world, and it's all for naught. They spend so much time on intellectual pursuits, and it's all nonsense and garbage, and it all changes from generation to generation. You have a magician, Ben Ish Chai brings down, they had a magician that bought 5 eggs from a vendor. On the spot, he takes the 5 eggs, cracks one, opens it, there's a crazy gem inside worth millions of dollars. Takes another one, cracks it open, another diamond. 5 out of 5, all these eggs have diamonds. And this magician is like, I can't believe I sold him these eggs, and these eggs for pennies, and it's worth millions. So the vendor is like, you know what? I have about 100 eggs at home. Let me pack everything, go home. I'll crack it open, take all the diamonds for myself. He cracks open one after another. There's not a single diamond in every single one, and any one of them. They're all just egg yolks. And he's like, what's going on over here? This vendor not only lost on the sale of the eggs, he lost here and he lost there. He lost in his eggs and he didn't gain anything afterwards from finding any treasure. And this is how you have many people live their life. They don't have this world and they don't have the next world. Nishta here, nishta hain. They don't have this and they don't have that. They focus on fake things. They focus on things that are not true, that they don't mean anything, and they convince themselves that this is the righteous thing and this is what we need to go on. This is what we need to, we need to focus on. At the end of the day, after 120, they realized they wasted their life. They focused on things that were not important, and they gave precedence to things that were not important, and they put things that were important down to the wayside. Because unfortunately, they lived a life of a lie. So the question that we have to ask, I'm going to shortly finish, how do we avoid living a lie? we see it all around us, from people that, from this lefty world, from the Islamic world, how they live a lie and they look at the reality and in their mind it's true. How do we avoid it? That maybe the way that we sing, maybe our view is false. Maybe we're living in a lie. How do we avoid this surprise discovery of living in a lie? It all begins, explains Rabbi Fran, by speaking the truth. If we're careful in the words that we speak, if we speak only the truth, we're able to recognize the truth. If we start rationalizing the falsehoods here and the sheker over here, then truth and falsehood start blurring in our minds. And we can no longer differentiate from the truth. Everything is focused and based on the truth. The Torah is based on the truth. Bereshis bara Elokim. You take the last letters, Bereshis, a Taf, bara, Aleph, Elokim, a Mem, it spells emes. The Torah stands on truth. And that's why the letters, Aleph, Mem, Taf, Tas, they all have a solid foundation. They all have two legs that they stand on, or at least two legs that they stand on. Sheker is falsehood. All stands on a point, like a shin has a point, a resh has a point, a kuf has a point. They all have only a point, meaning that falsehood is truth stands on a strong foundation. How are you going to live your life? Are you going to live your life through falsehood, or are you going to live your life through truth? The way that you are going to make sure that you don't go and fall into the prey of living a lie is you have to make sure that everything they do is truthful. If you are very truthful, you're going to start saying things in a truthful manner. The Chazon Ish and his brother-in-law, Reb Shmuel Greineman, they were davening early mincha. It was 12:45. There was exactly 10 people, and they needed everybody for a minyan. All of a sudden, they're about to start. And Rav Shmuel turns over to the Chazon Ish and says, I have to ask you a question. I just remembered that I had an appointment to meet with somebody at 1 o'clock. If I stay here for the minyan, I'm not going to make that meeting. But if I leave, you're not going to have a minyan. So what am I supposed to do? So the Chazon Ish says, what's the question? He says, there's no question. He says, you leave right now. A word is a word. If you told this person you'll be there 1 o'clock, you forget about the minyan. Like we'll have to figure out something else. A word is a word. And this is how the Gedolim lived. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, when he was older, somebody, asked him, says, Rabbi, I see you never eat fish. Do you have something against fish? Do you not like fish? And Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says, no, I love fish. Fish is, I really do appreciate it. I love fish. So they said, then how come you don't eat fish? We've never seen you eat fish. So he said, when I was a young boy and I was living in Russia, we ate by somebody else's house and they served fish, and I took one bite out of it. And it was so bad. It was something off with the fish that it just came out of my mouth. It like spit out of my mouth. Like involuntarily, it just came out. At that point, right when it came out, the woman who cooked the fish walked in. And Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says, Yaakov, he says, what, you don't like my fish? And Rabbi Kamenetsky, which was a young boy at the time, says, no, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I don't eat fish. That's how we respond. I don't eat fish. And he says, since that day, as a young boy, I haven't touched a fish since then, because I said I don't eat fish. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I said I don't eat fish, so since then I don't eat fish anymore. The Gemara in Bava Kama tells us that gnevas das, deceitfulness, is worse than actual theft. And in fact, the Sefer Hasidim writes that even many times we're allowed to lie, halachically. But if you lie, it's still going to affect your soul. It's still going to affect your neshama. There was a woman from South Africa who came over to speak to Rabbi Fran, who was visiting South Africa, and she says, I have to tell you a story and I have to ask you a question. He says, both my parents came from Lithuania. Says my mother came from Panovich, and she said she knew a little bit more about religion. That my father had no very very little to no knowledge about anything Jewish. And when it came time for my brothers to be bar mitzvah, so my mother was the only one that was able to teach them whatever little that she knew. Said we lived in a small mining town in South Africa. My father had a store, and he was a very honest person. back then, that was real apartheid over there. So the black South Africans, were very poor during this time and illiterate, and they would come to sell whatever they had to the stores, and many stores took advantage of it. They had special weights, for these types of situations. And she said my father was a very honest man. He made sure that his weights were always, he weighed something, gave very, very fair and honest man, but knew nothing about Judaism, he lived a very, very simple life. And, when he passed away, he was buried in South Africa. And, she said her mother lived for another 20 years. And her mother wrote in the will that when she passes on, she wants to be buried in Israel. And she wants that they should take the body of the father and take it out and bury her and him together in Israel. So, she passed away 20 years later. They went to Chevra Kadisha. They went and they exhumed the body. They took out the body, and they had to uncover the body. They had to open the casket. So the Chevra Kadisha and the brother-in-law of this woman was present in the story, and everybody wore this mask, because if a body has been decaying for 20 years, it doesn't have the greatest smell. So they were all wearing the mask. And when they opened up the casket, all of a sudden there was one of the people. There was Israeli. They looked at this South African kind of secular Jew, and they were shocked. They started screaming, "Shalem, tzaddik, shalem, tzaddik," meaning he's complete. He's a righteous person, and he's complete. What does it mean complete? He looked like if he was just buried. There was no rot. There was no decay. He was buried for 20 years. And this woman said, my brother-in-law was there. He was looking at it. He says, it looks like he never met her, the father-in-law. He looked like he looked in the pictures. He looked like he was just buried. And this is the story that this woman is telling Rabbi Fran. And she says, can you explain to me? My father was a simple man. Why? How was he that, didn't decay, didn't do anything? So Rabbi Fran responded, there's a pasuk in Devarim, chapter 25, verse 15. And it says, Evan shalema v'tzedek yalach. Literal translation means you shall have a full and honest weight. Meaning when you weigh something, you should have it. But he explained it like this, Evan shalema. When your father, when he weighed things very, very accurate. Then v'tzedek yalach, not only he's going to be righteous, but he's also going to be shalem. He's also going to be complete. Because your father was so honest, he says, that you told me yourself, your father was such an honest man, and that is why he was complete, because God loves honest people. And the Archos Tzadikim says a story of the students of Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach. They bought a donkey, and on the donkey they didn't, only they saw it afterwards. On the neck of the donkey there was a stone, a very, very expensive stone. They went back to the seller and said, listen, we see there's an expensive stone. We bought the donkey. We didn't buy the stone. And they went, and it was an Arab guy. They went and they returned the stone to this Arab guy. And this Arab person responded. He says, bless the God of Shimon ben Shetach. Bless the God, because you could see how honest you are. And this is not only something that happened almost 2,000 years ago. In 2013, there was a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Noach Murov. This is a story that was put out in all. I read the story in CNN has a story. It was all in the secular news. What happened was, it was 2013. This rabbi lived in New Haven, Connecticut, and he was looking for a new desk for his home office. And he didn't want to spend a lot, so he looked on Craigslist. He found a desk that it would fit what he would wanted for $150. So he reaches out to this woman. This woman explained to him, says, yeah, I'm selling this desk for $150. I bought this desk from Staples a few years ago. I just don't need it anymore. $150, it's yours. He says, fine. Comes down, looks at it, everything looks good, gives her the $150, takes out the desk. He brings the desk into his house, and he realizes it's not going to fit into the room because it's too big. He has to take it apart. So he start taking it apart, and as he's taking the top off, he notices that in the back of one of the drawers, there's a bag in there. He opens the bag, and inside the bag, he sees a wad of bills. He starts counting it. It turns out there's $98,000 in this desk. He goes, it was late at night at the time. He calls the woman up, and he says, I found the bag of money. It must be yours. I would like to come and return it. Like the whole situation was like she's like, what? I can't believe it. The next day he goes with his entire family, brings the bag of money back, and she explains it to him. And she says, I got an inheritance and I put it away. And I put it in bags of money, I put it away, and it must have fell in behind this thing. I guess I miscalculated it. I didn't even think about it. And he gave back the money. She wanted to give him some sort of reward, whatever. He ended up getting a few $1,000s as a reward for it. But this story blew up. It went all over the news. All the news outlets ended up, coming and talking about it. And there was a boy, I don't know how few years, how much, from Clifton, New Jersey. In the Clifton Cheder, he bought a book from a bookstore, from Z. Berman bookstore. He wanted to buy it as a gift for his rabbi. And inside he opened up and he found $2,000. He went down and returned it. And he made sure to say that the reason why he returned it is because he was inspired by this story that happened, I don't know how long ago, about this rabbi that returned $98,000. This is a rabbi, right? So he could definitely use the $98,000. But he went down and returned it. And the rabbi says, there's never even in a moment in my mind did it enter my mind that maybe I should keep it. You could start saying, okay, this woman didn't know about it, obviously. She gave it, you could have come up with 1,000 excuses. But if you're truth, if you're emistic, it never even entered this rabbi's mind that he should keep this money. And the effect that it had was like the entire world heard about the story. Everybody, it's crazy, the effect. And I guarantee you, when he was returning it, he was just going to return it. He didn't call CNN, hey, by the way, check it out. I'm going to do something really awesome. Come down, come through. No, they didn't come about it. And in fact, Yaakov Shweki wrote a song, and he brought down this person, this rabbi. This song is called It Could Be You, but I want to read you one paragraph from it. From the song It Could Be You by Yaakov Shweki. Today, the way you behave can make tomorrow's front page. Is there anything that you would change if you knew you were on the world stage? Remember what the Sma says. The Sma says that the Geula, the final redemption, is going to be delayed until the nations of the world will attest to the honesty and integrity of the Jewish people. We have an obligation. We have a requirement. How are we going to present ourselves? Are we going to be a light unto the nation? Or are we going to be the people that look at oh no, deceptive, stay away from them? We started off this class that when you look into politics, you look into perspective, we see things, and when we look at it, Israel's 100% right. When other people look at it, Israel's 100% wrong. How is it possible? How, because it all depends on the perspective and how you see reality. What do you see as true, and what do you see as false? And we said there's two categories. There's somebody that knows that it's what's right and wrong, and they decide to live a lie. And that there's nothing really to discuss about that. But then you have somebody else who just look at the news and they repeat what they say. They look at their environment. This is how the parents raised me, and they don't know any better. They hear. So how could you say what's wrong with that? Like this is how they were raised. How could you blame them? After all, this is how they were raised, and this is an important lesson that we have to take away. And we have to realize that you are attracted to things that are similar to your likes and needs. Meaning that, look at friendships. Friendships are all based on similarities. You look at the secular, non-Jewish public schools. The jocks, the people that like sports, they hang out together. The drama, the people that like theater, like acting, they hang out together. You have the goths and the emos and the people that are very depressed, whatever it is, they hang out together. You have the stoner group, you have the nerds and the geeks, you have the band, you have everybody has a certain they have a certain things that they are, things that they enjoy, and the people that are similar to them is who they connect with. And this is something that we have to think about. Who do we connect with? How do you know that you're living a life of reality? How do you know that you're living a life of truth? How do you know that you're making your right decision? So who do you connect with? How do you see reality? You know how you see reality? What do you look at? Who are your friends? Who are your neighbors? Who do you connect with? How do you interact with? All these things based on what your perspective of reality is. You put yourself in a situation. You are in a situation that you are because of who you connect with, who are your experiences. Everything is based on what you see is true and what you see is false. We have to take a step back. We have to take a step back and look at reality and be like, okay, Is this where we need to be? Is this the truth that we really are in? Are we really just connected? Because you look at Iran, you look at all these the people that live in this fake reality, because everything is lies about that. They grow. You know how they lie to their society? They lie so much. We won everything, because everything is lies. So they connect to it, right? Imagine you have somebody who's a gambler and you start speaking, it starts justifying it. Really, it's not such a big issue. You have an angry person and they decide they're going to be angry at somebody because they're not following God. They're just justifying their emotions. They're justifying their negative character traits because they have to feel that what they're doing is right and they're doing is okay. Because this is the circle, this is the way that they're experienced, this is the way that they see reality, this is the way they were raised, whatever the reason is. But we have to, and this is such an important lesson, we have to take a step back. We have to learn two important lessons. Number one, we have to take a step back and realize, are we living the true reality that really is accurate? Are we living the way of the Torah, the Maaseh, that what we're supposed to be doing? And the second thing is also so important. We have to look at how HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated this entire war, everything that came about. You look at how God has control of every single thing and how everything ended up being worked out for the Jewish nation as a whole as a positive thing. And even though we're still in the middle of the situation, but we have to take a step back and realize that whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that we're going through, we have to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control, and everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is for the best. Kol man da'avid Rahman al-Tavavit. Of course, we have to do what we're supposed to be doing, and of course, we have to go and pray, and we have to do the things that we need to do. But ultimately, we have to realize that God is in control of everything. All you need to do is follow the Torah, follow the mitzvahs, follow the Maaseh, and then God is going to take care of you. We're going to finish off with a Kapitel Tehillim, as we usually do for Klal Yisrael as a whole, and then we'll open up if there are any questions. As usual, we say Kapitel Kuf Lamed, chapter 130. Shir Hamalais, Mima Amakim Karasicha Adonai. Adonai Shem Abikali Tiana Aznach Kashuv Vais LeKol Tachanunai Im Avaynes Tishmar Ya Adonai Mi Amoid Ki Imcha Slicha Leman Tivarei Ki Visi Adonai Kivsa Nafshi Uvilidvarei Hoichalti Nafshi Ladonai Mishomim Labeker Shomim Labeker Yachal Yisrael Adonai Ki Adonai Chesed V'Arbei Ma'Fedus V'Hu Yiftar Yisrael Mikol V'Nesav Achinu Kol Beis Yisrael and the Sudan Batzara Vashev Yahaim Dem Bein Bayam Uvein Bayabasha Hamakim Yirachim Aleim V'Yatzia Mitzara Le'Rvacha Ma'Afela Le'Ara Meshiba Legula Hashta Bagala Bizman Kariv V'Neimar Amen. Okay, we have one question. We'll answer this question and then we'll close it off. Why is it that a question about the war? Why is it that the IDF can track down top general of Hezbollah but can't get the rest of the hostages? Interesting. So they again, I'm not privy to what's going on behind the scenes over there, but from my information that I do have is that they know where the hostages are, but they know that if they're going to go in, the hostage is going to get killed. There's the instructions that the people that are watching over the hostages they're just going to kill them. So even though they know, I don't know if they know exactly where they are, they're more or less where they are. I wouldn't be surprised if they know exactly where they are, but they cannot go in without risking the hostages' lives. So again, there's many conspiracy theories of why they're not doing that as well, but we're not going to get into that. But in any case, that is the answer that I have. I want to thank you all for joining us, and until next time, may you all have an amazing and blessed week.